Welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin Candland. I'm here with JJ Brun, and he is a retired spy, has written a number of books, and just does all kinds of other cool stuff. So excited to have you on, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's go first into with business, with relationships, with all these other things. You preach how if we don't have some kind of model to help us associate ourselves with that thing, that we will fall short of where we could be. So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it came very early in my military career and then my entrepreneurial career. That if you don't have a model of reference, you will often find yourself at a disadvantage in business and also in your personal life because people don't do things to you; they do things for themselves. We have different traits, different needs, different expectations, and when you're able to recognize what I call decoding one's preferred communication style, when you're able to decode human dynamics, it does give you an edge. Now, there's many behavioral tools out there that you can learn, that you can discover, experience, and apply. Myers-Briggs, True Colors, Neo, MMPI. Oh my gosh, there's just so anagrams, great tool. Pick one, master it. So I chose the four temperament model of human behavior. It's also referred to as the DISC model of human behavior, and in psychology is referred to as the wellness model. Not looking at people having a deficiency, but more looking at the traits when they're under control, when they're grounded, what it looks like, and when they're out of control, ungrounded, what it looks like. So you can then engage a conversation and celebrate people's differences versus tolerate people's differences. With two operational tours underneath my belt, I've seen a lot of character building moments, a lot of conflict, and quite often is misunderstanding in regards to who you're interacting with. And decoding one's preferred communication style is very well a good start point and be able to celebrate their differences versus tolerate. And then everyone has to have that conversation. So a model does help. If you have kids, you wouldn't raise them the same way because they're wired differently. Your spouse is wired differently. So there's a saying that opposite attract at a distance and they attack way up close. So quite often, if you don't have a model or reference, you're going to go through that mindset of why can't you be normal like me? And that's just it. It's just different. We have our preferences, and the research indicates at the age of 4 to 5, a child's preference is already set. Wow, at a very young age, and then you have to let them grow or parent them, educate them according to how they're wired so that they can protect themselves from themselves. So definitely having a model of reference is an edge. It gives you that edge in business or in your personal life for sure.
For me, if my ADHD, JJ, gives me sanity. It's like I can go in this direction, and this is all I need to build my strategy around. As long as I'm in this parameter, like basketball, for example, if I'm on the court, I can pass the ball, I can shoot the ball, but there's things I can't do. I can't double dribble, I can't do all this stuff. And that makes it a lot more difficult for me to like run out of bounds or whatever with the relationship or whatever. So no, that makes perfect sense. When somebody does breach our boundary or in some way gets on our nerves or whatever, like what's a good move to reestablish connection in the relationship or friendship and not hurt the other person? Because I think sometimes we tend to avoid conflict when sometimes we need to kind of be calm with ourselves and approach it calmly, but then go, and do what we can.
Definitely with the word that um, when communication breaks down, and it will, when communication breaks down, and it will, blame the process and not the people. So I've learned to breathe, right? And not react, but respond to. And quite often it starts with something that I designed called the rapport ladder. And the rapport ladder has 4 rungs. So it's listening, observing, discerning, and speaking. Listening to the other person. Observing the traits, observing the dynamics. Are they more outgoing, reserved, task, or people? Observing, discerning, if you wish, their preferred communication style, which is rung number 3, and then speaking. And if you don't do that sequence and you just speak your mind without thinking about all the other steps, you'll fall off that ladder. And you don't miss one rung, you go all the way down. And it's very painful if you fall down a ladder. But what's interesting with the first rung, the rung is listen. Listen. And there's a gentleman that once showed me that if you take the letters in the word listen and rearrange them, you have the word silent. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. As in, when we listen, we have to listen in silence. Well, how do you do that? Well, you have to silent your mind and silent your mouth to really listen. Right? Listen to the other person, as in between the lines, as in listen to their problems or their challenges or their objection or the miss of expectation. What is it that's creating this? You really have to listen to the other person. Now, I got an app, and I put the word listen, and they can re-scramble and find all these different words that you can find in the word listen, because I was curious if this person was able to find, the word silent. Is there another word? And there is, and it's the word enlist. And I'm like, love that. When we listen in silence, we can enlist a proper response to the other person to meet their needs. Sometimes it's just to show some empathy, or to oh my gosh, I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Here's how I came through it. I'm just curious. When you ask that question, what happened? Well, I'm just curious. Those three words, I'm just curious. I know technically it's four, but let's just say there's three, because I have the 3-4-5 approach. I'm just curious. Then the second part is the 4 words. Well, you know how. I'm looking to make a connection. Well, you know how I went through the. Then number 5, would it be okay? Would it be okay if I share you that story? Would it be okay if I send you more information? Would it be okay for us to sit down over a meal and for us to reconnect? So it all goes back to the power of the question. What made me very effective in my military career and in my entrepreneurial career is I just memorized the 10 most effective feel-good ice-breaking questions. And then from there, when I met the self-declared mayor of Mostar, one time I was working over in Bosnia, he was a case that we had to cultivate or build a relationship. And I started, I'm just curious. How did you ever get interested in the widget business? So I just changed. How did you ever get interested in politics? And that gentleman talked for 45 minutes nonstop. And the more he talked, the more he revealed his preferred communication style. So it all starts with the power of the question. And then from there, you listen in silence to enlist a proper response to add to the conversation. Because in every interaction that you're going to have with people, you're going to complete or you're going to compete. Two similar temperament styles may compete who's going to be in charge. I want to complete. And again, because I speak 3 languages, French is my first language. The word complete and compete are very similar, but one has the letter L in it. And I don't know why my brain goes this way. What's the L factor of completing an interaction versus competing with an interaction? And for me, until I can find a common link, a common like, or a common love, no connection. So think about that rapport ladder that I talked about before. When you put a ladder, you have to connect it to the ground, right? It's going to require energy to go up that ladder. Just like building a relationship is going to require energy. We first have to ground that. We have to make a connection. And for me, if I can find a common link, the common like, the common love, I can make a connection. I'm not a big advocate of instant rapport. I do believe you can make an instant connection with people. And then from there, you just go up that ladder. You're listening, you're observing, you're discerning, and then you're speaking. And this way, it just provides an opportunity for that person to say yes to you more often, because they'll feel that you understand where I'm coming from.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I just am like, dude, next time I'm about to go on a date with a girl, bro, I'm gonna listen to this like 3 times, because I've been thinking about this relationship I was in a year ago, and how I did not do this, how I just kind of let myself just collapse and not share certain things with her, not be vulnerable, not be open, thinking I had to say the perfect thing when all she wanted was for me to say exactly what was on my mind. Because otherwise, now she's drawing a narrative. This is how I feel about it anyways. I'm drawing a narrative, and now it's like we can't, it's hard to complete each other and understand each other when our narratives are written from different perspectives, et cetera, et cetera. And we're not talking about things we really need to talk about, et cetera. So yeah, I'm like, I'm going to listen to this at least 2 or 3 times. Like, I promise you this. Like, I'll be on a run. I'm like, okay, bet I'm going on this date tonight. I am going to listen to this 3 times, at least 2 or 3 times. So I just love what you've shared so far.
But let me add then, if you're going to do that, so the model that I'm using, okay, so if you're looking to decode one's preferred communication style, so I'll simplify it. It's the 2 P's. You got to remember the 2 P's. There's always a pace perspective in the interaction, and there's always a priority perspective. So this is how I go about reading the other person's preferred communication style. Are they fast paced? Are they slower paced? Are they more outgoing? Are they more reserved? You know, we have these 2 traits in us to a lesser or greater degree. One is not better than the other. It is just different. I'm more outgoing in my day-to-day activities. My wife, my spouse, my business partner, she's more reserved on a day-to-day basis. Opposite attract, right, in regards to that area. So it's just different. And you can be 51% one side and 49, but you do have a preference. So there's always a pace perspective. And that's easy to see in people in the physiology, because you'll see big gestures, big movement, loud, more outgoing, but more reserved, more guarded gestures, and soft spoken, more reserved. You cannot not communicate. You know, people will communicate their preferred communication style to you. So the first P is the pace perspective. Once you've discerned that, then you start looking at the priority perspective. Is it more towards task, accomplishing, doing, getting things done, or towards people, interacting, socializing, having fun? It is just different. Well, and some people, well, how do you know that? Well, the language that they choose to use. You see, on one side, they like to think things through, but on the other side, they like to feel things through. So if you keep on using your own language, and I keep on saying to you, what do you think we should do? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? So what do you think? What do you think? But you're on the people side of the spectrum. And on the people side, you don't think things through, you feel things through. You can't respond because it doesn't stick. It doesn't. So a better approach when you're interacting with someone is asking, so what do you think or feel we should do after the movie? Well, I think, ding, 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 task. Well, I feel, ding, 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 go on the people side. So there's words that we choose to use. On one side, they care about people. On the other side, they don't care about people. Oh, how could you say you don't care? It's the wrong word. More task-oriented individual. They value people. Well, that's cold. But on the people side, they care about people. Oh, that's so weak and marshmallow. And see, we tend to label what we don't understand. And most of the character building moments we have in a relationship, 80 to 90%, comes from the priority perspective. Why can't you be normal like me? So in regards to that, if you have a model of reference, it does provide you an avenue, because here's an example. I'm sensing the person's more outgoing and very much task oriented. I know I need to communicate with that person in a firm manner. That person is outgoing, but it's more people oriented. I know I need to communicate with that person in a fun manner. Well, that person is more reserved and definitely is more on the people side of life. I need to communicate in a friendly manner. And on the other side, if they're more reserved, but they're very task focused, task oriented, I need to communicate in a factual manner. When connecting with people matters. So when you're discerning one's preferred communication style, the pace perspective, the priority perspective, what I'm doing with the rapport ladder, right? I'm listening, I'm observing, as in their physiology, the words that they're choosing to use, and I'm discerning which quadrant to go. And then when I'm speaking, I'm either speaking in a firm, fun, friendly, or factual manner. It helps you then to communicate based on how they're wired, because if they're more of that direct, demanding, decisive persona, that outgoing and task oriented, then I know for them it's all about results and performance. So whatever I want to introduce to show that they're going to get more results, better performance, they'll say yes. So by having those little clues and cues, it helps. And by being able to ask questions, it also helps in understanding, discerning where they're coming from, and then saying the same thing in 4 different ways. So I've learned that way back in my 30s. This was a doctor, because I come from a certain persona, and it tends to be the smallest group of the general population. And the instructor was Dr. Robert A. Rome. And he said to me, JJ, let me show you how you can annoy 90% of the general population just by being yourself. Oh my gosh, it hit me like a sledgehammer, because I'm doing pretty good in business, but I'm leaving a lot of opportunities at the table. And I'm like, my gosh, I ran over so many people because I'm just speaking my language. I'm not speaking everybody else's. Hey, 90%, I'm off track. Because would you be willing to learn to say the same thing in a different way? What I heard, do you want to get better results? Do you want to increase your performance? Do you want to be more successful, have more money in your bank account? Yeah. Let me show you how. And I became a student right there, a student for life. And I've now accumulated over 30,000 hours in studying, discovering everything on human dynamics. And I now equip people for their works of service within utilizing a model of human behavior. So it's fascinating. It took me so long to get there. However, I was able to teach this to my kids at a very young age and other people that I work with. So it does give you an edge. And it's all about understanding how to read other people as you evolve, whether it's in your personal or your professional life. So when you go on that date, you can ask these questions, right? Not an interrogation, by the way. You say, I'm just curious. If you do that, I'm just curious. Now, in your day-to-day activities, do you prefer more of an outgoing type of environment, or do you prefer more of a reserved type of environment? And they'll share. Now you have a choice of more task or people, and then in how they interact, and if their physiology is easy to smile and laugh, more on the people side. If they're a little bit more stoic and guarded, more on the task side. But it does give you a start point in connecting with them by design and not by chance. And it works. This model works across cultures, so it's very beneficial. So you can date anyone around the world. You'll be able to decode their preferred communication style. And whenever in doubt, because some people say, I can't read, I can't, that doesn't work. Whenever in doubt, go friendly, which is reserve and people. Just be the nicest person you can be. And then from there, you'll see that you can transit to the other style blends in times of need. So that's your fault. You're talking about dates. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an edge here that there is a value of being able to ask questions, be a very good conversationalist. Happy to provide. I'll send you a copy of the 10 most effective feel-good ice-breaking questions. Maybe I can put that in the chat for you. Yeah, I'll do that right now, actually, so that I don't forget. Boom. Send.
Boom. Send.
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And the 3-4-5 approach that I talked about is actually also in there. So it has a little bit of a James Bond, Mission Impossible theme to it, as in the better you are at asking questions, the better you will be able to have a conversation. The better you're going to have conversations, the better you're going to be at building relationship. So question, conversation leads to relationship, professional or personal. So it's a sequence. See, I'm very systematic, but I needed to go overseas to learn how to be more people oriented. But I've designed these processes that also helps other people to know, well, how do you engage and interact with people? So hopefully that helps out.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you hearing me out about this, because it's definitely just what's on my heart, what's on my mind right now. I feel like there's been a real rebuilding and healing period, and now I'm kind of going into that. It's like, go for it kind of period, and so it's important to keep in mind everything that you've learned from the rebuilding and the healing period, but at the same time putting in new things, and I'm feeling that and seeing that in my life. So I appreciate you sending that over for me to improve with that implementation. So what would you say would be like something you'd say to, because a lot of this podcast is about helping improve the conversation you have with yourself and your mind. So what's something you would do to help out with that? Like build a relationship with yourself would be a tip you have about that. And then how do we get in touch with you and learn more about what you do?
For me, I'm a big advocate of the faster you start teaching, the faster you start assimilating. In my university courses that I teach on influencing and leading others. And I provide them a 50-page PDF, a participant guide, and I tell them, take it and start teaching it. What? Start teaching it, as in it's my content, but my gosh, start teaching it. Because the faster you start teaching on mindset, on leadership, on influencing strategies, by just saying, well, here's what I learned. Fantastic. There's a saying in the speaking lane. I never wanted to, I don't sense I felt that I wanted to be a motivational speaker. I did 20 years in the military. Then it was enough. For me, 20 years was enough. And I had that little itch, that little entrepreneurial side that I wanted to go into. So I had a 20-year career, and now I'm on my 25th year with DHC Training Solution. Even that, DHC, that acronym, Decoding Human Capital. I'm looking at everyone has a human capital waiting to be discovered. And when I learned the model, the four temperament model of human behavior, I started teaching the four temperament model of human behavior to senior attaches before they deployed, to troops that before they deployed to Bosnia or Afghanistan back then. And so I'm a big advocate that you go and you learn, and then you got to share. And when you do that, it goes from a mindset to a heart set, right? As in, okay, or a head knowledge to a heart knowledge would be a better way. That at one point, I was teaching the four temperament model, also known as the DISC model, and it goes from a head to a heart. Now I'm speaking Discanese. Don't look it up in a dictionary. I made up that word, but it's like a third language. And it's a language that celebrates people's differences versus tolerates people's differences. So I'm a big advocate. If they have the 10 most effective feel-good ice-breaking questions, start teaching it. Start teaching it. What's going to happen? You're going to assimilate it. It's going to be part of your DNA. It's just going to naturally come out of you. So I'm a big advocate of that. If they want more on this, it's simply to go to the retiredspy.com website. Up in Canada, we have to have it bilingual, so it is bilingual, both French and in English. And then I have the weekly tips, the operative insights. So from an operative, I was not 007. My operative number is 431. All the double zeros were taken. So I'm Agent 431, yay. But insights, the word insights, the ability to see things others overlook. So if they don't have a model of reference and they would like to learn about a model of reference, well, you can get with the operative insights, because I give tips every week in the application on the entrepreneurial side of life and the parenting side of life and the career path. Because what happens is when you go to high school, you learn, right? All this information, but people keep on asking you, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to be? We have no clue. We are acluistic, one without a clue. Having a strong sense of self, it starts there, because your strengths will carry you in life. Your lowest traits should concern you so you don't get blindsided, but your strengths will carry you. And I would say to people, stay in your strength. If you stay in your strength, how you're wired, you will never burn out. And then you will find your match, the match that complements that strength. So I'm a big advocate of it. So if they need more information, if they want to reach out, by all means, you can also connect a 30-minute complimentary call. And I can assist in providing a little bit more insights as to their next step, if that's something that they're looking for.
That was thrilling. Yeah, you did such a good job wrapping it up, putting a bow on it and everything. Everybody check out more stuff from JJ. And thank you so much, JJ. I look forward to chatting with you again, maybe after I've gone on that first date.
Follow up. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, take care, man. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Appreciate you. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, right on time too. So we'll be in touch and appreciate you sending that thing over. It's just the /10 questions. Yeah, I'll look into that and I'll let you know how it goes. But I really appreciate you, man.
No
So
problem. Don't be shy. And if you ever had a question, go to that retard spot because you can book a 30-minute call anytime.
I appreciate
Anytime.
that, man.
You'll get on my calendar.
Cool.
All right.
We'll keep you posted. Take care. Thank you.
Cheers.